This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about the life and death of Colonel Blimp from 1943, directed by Michael Powell and Emeric Pressburger. The tagline for this film, an unforgettable story of 40 gallant years. And the synopsis from Letterboxd. General Candy, who's overseeing an English squad in 1943, is a veteran leader who doesn't have the respect of the men he's training and is considered out of touch with what's needed to win the war. But it wasn't always this way. Flashing back to his early career in the Boer War and World War I, we see a dashing young officer whose life has been shaped by 3 different women and by a lasting friendship with a German soldier. So first off, RJ, this title's full of shit.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a single character in this thing called Colonel Blimp at all.
Not Colonel, and certainly the guy you would think that is like not Colonel Blimp, he doesn't die at all.
No, not at all. And you hardly see him live. Well, to a bit. But so like I thought I missed something. And when I finished the movie, I Googled Colonel Blimp.
Well, I was going to ask you, RJ. Hey, RJ, who is Colonel Blimp?
I mean, aren't we all kind of Colonel Blimp, Jarrett? Do you know what I mean?
No.
maybe we're all Colonel Blimp. Have you ever thought of it like that?
Yeah, sure. Like we're all the monster.
We're all the monsters, maybe. Maybe we're all a little bit of the life and death of Colonel Blimp.
Yeah.
Who's to say?
So
who's to say?
So who is Colonel Blimp? Why? From our good friends at Wikipedia. Your one-stop shop for reference. Colonel Blimp is a British cartoon character by cartoonist David Lowe, first drawn for Lord Beaverbrook's London Evening Standard in April 1934. Blimp is a pompous, irascible, jingoistic, and stereotypically British, identifiable by his walrus mustache and the interjection, "Gad, sir." Lowe claimed that he had developed the character after overhearing 2 military men in a Turkish bath declare that cavalry officers should be entitled to wear their spurs inside tanks. The character was named after the barrage balloon, which was known as a blimp.
What?
So
who is Colonel Blimp?
So he's a cartoon character. He was it's like a Dennis the Menace type figure. And I guess like he became shorthand over years of like referring to like kind of the like "I say burr," that kind of Britishman who also is very like traditional and conservative, perhaps contradictory, a blusterer, a man who doesn't like to see reform or change and wants things returned to traditional, like RJ gesturing to himself, like a real Mr. Blimp.
Yeah, I identify with a lot of the feelings and sentiments of Mr. Blimp.
Yeah, so I guess this idea, this life and death of Colonel Blimp, maybe this title isn't full of shit. Maybe it's about how this character lives, and then the death of the mindset of Colonel Blimp expires when, at the end of the movie, spoilers, he learns an invaluable lesson.
Jarrett, I don't know what a metaphor is. I don't know if I can comprehend these ideas and themes.
I know.
Hey, I just remembered a friend of mine, his dad used to call 2 liters of pop blimps. And I really like that. I think I'm going to start using that in my normal life.
I got another question for you, RJ.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what's up?
When did you realize Deborah Kerr was playing 3 different characters?
Okay. So this isn't like the last time, Jarrett. It took me to the 3rd time to figure it out. I had no idea the first 2 times.
Well, you wouldn't know it the first time.
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't realize it the first time that she came back.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I was like, wait a minute. Is that Deborah Kerr again? I was like, this lady looks an awful lot like that other lady.
Why isn't she aging?
Yeah. So I will admit, I didn't realize at first when the second lady comes in. I was like, I don't think I even pieced it together. It was like, oh, she kind of looks like that other lady. Because I'm a chud, and I have chud opinions. And I was like, I don't get this. But I figured it out near the end. So you'd be proud of me. I'm not coming into this thing completely clueless
you put
for
the
once.
Pieces of the puzzle together, and they snapped. You went, oh, it's a sailboat.
Oh, a sail. It's not a schooner. It's a sailboat.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it's a callbacks to all sorts of Criterion films.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So RJ,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen this movie before, but we know about that
Oh,
Powell,
good.
that Pressburger, and this movie's got a
Sure.
reputation. People seem to really like this movie. They're real
How come?
big fans. You know what I was not a big fan of though?
What's that, Jared?
When I did a length kind of check, a display check. How long is this movie? Because I didn't know when I started it. I was just like, how
Oh,
is this going to
you didn't.
be? Oh, I didn't know. I was like thinking, this is what,
Mm-mm.
like an hour and a half, hour 45? No,
Mm-mm.
it's 2 hours and 45 minutes, which did not fit into my allotted time I'd given it. So I had to break this into two pieces,
Of course you
which
did.
might have been a mistake because I will say that when I came back to pick up from where I left off, the energy momentum that it had built up to that point was gone.
Mm-hmm.
My mind was
Yeah.
filled with other things, and I was kind of like not as engaged with it. So
That's too bad.
that's on me. That all being said, so this movie starts off in a Turkish bath, which is
Sure
a
does.
very popular destination, I guess, for people.
How come?
I for one have not been to a Turkish bath.
Oh, you're missing out then.
Oh yeah, how are they, RJ? Speaking,
I
it makes you
haven't.
sound like you are a big fan.
Well, sometimes I fill my bathtub up, and then I sit in it. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah, same difference.
No, I've never been there, but I mean, it looks really cool.
Having a sweat,
Yeah, I
talking
mean, sweat.
about the matters of the day.
Yeah, like with the boys, for the boys, having a little sweat. Like, what's wrong with that? I sweat
Ooh, RJ has turned into a robot.
with some. Oh, for real?
Yep.
Oh, what should I do?
Let's continue on. Let's wing
Okay,
it.
you talk.
So, the movie picks up with a young, up and coming militant soldier who has a scheme. He wants to show this Colonel Blimp that his way of thinking, that we declare things at noon and by God we stick to those things. He's saying, well, what if I just attack at 6 and like accomplish this like war game exercise and just beat you immediately? That's not the time. And we get an explosive pink mustachioed man who does not take kindly to this outrage. And then we get a brawl in the bath, the pool itself. And then we get this like kind of like awkward transition that I think might have been more artful at one point, but now it's kind of like, why is this shot still going? and then a young man emerges from the bottom of the frame, and it's a now de-aged Candy.
Colonel Blimp.
Yeah, that guy who's not in the movie, Colonel Blimp, but young Candy, like John Candy. He swims out,
Ooh.
and things haven't really changed too much. People still lounge about, but he seems to be like more willing to take on the world, you know? A young whippersnapper, more ambitious, more to play by his own set of rules. He's recently returned from that Boer War, whatever, like 1904, and he gets a letter from a German or a English woman living in Germany who's complaining about like this asshole who's lying about English people to Germans, saying that the English are doing all these horrible things, and that they should give him what for, and this should become a diplomatic issue. So Candy's like, "Nuh-uh, I'm just gonna fly over there and take care of it myself," and he does that. And there's some scenes at a dance hall. Music is played, beers are drank. There is men are spit on, people are decked, sent down, flying down steps, and then one thing leads to another, and we got ourselves a duel. RJ,
What kind?
a classic duel.
Like Ridley Scott's The Duelist?
No, anything but the duelists. In fact, it seems like the actual idea of depicting the duel or the action, the typical type of action, the big moments that you would kind of think would show up in a historical drama are intentionally left out of the movie.
Yeah. So, did you watch any of the supplementary material on the Criterion channel?
I did not.
So, I watched the half an hour interview with Martin Scorsese's film editor. That nice lady
Thelma Schumacher?
who's yes, yeah, I was gonna say who I can't remember her name. So, because I saw that there was a documentary on Colonel Blimp that was about 20 minutes long, and I couldn't find it. But Criterion Channel had two supplements. They had the intro by Big Marty himself, and then they had which was only like 8 minutes, and then they had this half-hour thing by that nice lady, whose name I already forgot again.
Thelma.
So I watched Thelma. Yeah, so I watched that, Jarrett, and I actually got a lot of insight into this movie. So they were talking about how Martin Scorsese apparently just absolutely loves the dueling scene because I think the way he put it, it was like the balls on this guy to like cut away from the action. He's like, because they're saying is like there's no way you could do shit like that anymore. Or like even at the time he's like, I can't believe that they got away with that. Where I think what he was saying was because Martin Scorsese was friends with Powell and Pressburger.
Yeah, he became
there was a lot
champion of them.
Yeah, there was a lot of really
all
cool
over
stuff
that Red Shoes restoration and such.
Yes, he was. So there's a lot of cool stuff about like because she knew them too, I guess, and they were she was talking about how for the duel scene, they wanted to do like when they were looking into it, they saw all this like protocol leading up to the duels, and they thought it was like so neat. They were just like, let's just do that. And it's like, and we're gonna cut away from the duel itself. It's like we don't need that in this. That's not what. Not just that it was like the obvious thing to cut away, but they just really thought that the protocol stuff was super neat, and they used those same words.
Yeah. Would you like to have would you like to roll your sleeve up, or would you like to have it cut?
Yeah, and then it's like I can't give advice. He's like, that is definitely the better way to do it. No, yeah, it was. It sounded like they were just really into that. They're like, man, there's like so much like goofy shit that goes into this, like wiping off their shoes on like that sandpaper or whatever it was. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, like that dirt that they were putting onto their feet so they slide on the wood better. Or
exactly.
Grip. Yep.
So there was a lot of stuff like that I thought was really neat. She also had a lot of insight into the movie itself, but maybe I'll talk about that when I get there.
Okay. So yeah, we have the duel. It cuts off to a miniature building, fake ass miniature building, and then it cuts back, and then you get to like kind of the aftermath of the duel, and you're hearing like the state that Candy's in. He's got this big old gash across his lip. He's a big old mess, and he's all bandaged up. And then what's the German guy's name?
It's like Klance Lubitsch Liebitsch. That's
his last
touch.
Theo.
Theo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Theo, you dumb idiot.
So yeah, he only got like a piece of his like forehead taken out, but not the whole lip. There's no real mention, I don't think, that I'm clear of who won the duel per se. It seemed like it was like a down the middle. Called off enough. There was enough naming. They couldn't continue on, and neither guy neither guy really like disliked the other, and they were like complete strangers, fighting for dignity and honor. The absurdity of that, and yeah. So then they strike up a friendship, and then we also have Deborah Kerr, who is the woman who started this whole to do, I guess, bringing them all together, and while Candy is kind of like. Oh, he's like amused by her and stuff like that, the way you are in a movie. It turns out, Theo and her are building up a relationship, and they're like really like afraid that he's gonna be mad about it. And he's like, not at all. That's great. And then when it comes down to it, he's like, oh.
It's like you. Whenever I make those jokes about you being how bad of a person you are, you're like, haha, it's funny. I'm not that bad, but then I can see people in the podcast world can't see, but you feel bad on the inside.
So when I was watching this movie, RJ, I didn't realize how old it was. As in, like, I didn't realize.
What do you mean?
I didn't know this movie was made in 1943. I was watching it in the mindset that this was like from the early 50s or something like that. So I was just like going along with it, and then like afterwards, I went, "Wait a minute, that whole thing was shot during World War II." Like it felt like I based on the subject matter, I was like, "Oh." I wouldn't expect that they'd make this movie that would have a sympathetic German character and like actually have sort of a not like all rosy depiction of like the British mindset and like the way war is fought. It's kind of like it's not pro-war it's very much like, well, unusual tactics must be taken, and like we have to fight unconventionally to win this war. We can't fight with honor because the enemy's definitely not doing that way, because we have that all about like how right is might, and that will be the thing that wins the day, even though the Germans will do everything in their power to win. And it's like, well, yeah, this is war. Like certain things are off the table. We have to do things unpredictably and underhanded to win, because you don't realize the threat that the Nazis represent. It's kind of like a large driving force of the whole movie.
What is the threat that the Nazis represent, Jarrett?
Well, RJ, I don't know. As a couple of white men, I don't know if our day-to-day lives would have changed too much necessarily.
Probably not. We would have been okay.
Yeah.
But
everyone else, boy, oh boy, let me tell you.
Yeah, I understood that this was an old movie because I do my research, and I'm a very well knowledgeable person. I just knew at the time and the place, and it got that Technicolor rejuvenation some years later that we are now enjoying today.
That's right.
In our real lives.
So the kernel of this movie, according to the directors, come from not from the newspaper comic strip by David Lowe of Old Colonel Blimp, but from a scene cut from their previous film, One of Our Aircraft is Missing, in which an elderly member of the crew tells a younger one, "You don't know what it's like to be old." Powell has stated that the idea was actually suggested by David Lean, then an editor, who, when removing the scene from the film, mentioned that the premise of the conversation was worthy of a film in its own right.
David Summertime Lean.
David Lean and Mean?
Unbelievable. See, his influence is just astounding. It resonates across time and film, Jarrett.
Do you know who Powell's first pick for Blimp was?
I heard it was Laurence Olivier.
Big Larry. I can't escape him.
Can't get enough of that guy. So that's another thing that Thelma was talking about in her long interview was apparently, I don't know if it said this in the Wikipedia or the essay or wherever you got your information. Apparently, Britain really did not want this movie to be made, and they were actively trying to stop it to be made. They didn't want the comparisons to Winston Churchill. They thought it was anti-propaganda or like German propaganda almost, because it was sympathetic to, as they call them in this movie, like aliens, like just foreign people, I guess. So like the British people didn't want it to be made, and there was a part of which where it was talking about like they actively got Laurence Olivier out of it or something like that.
Yeah,
and it was like they had like
the Ministry of Information refused to release Olivier, who was serving in the Fleet Air Army from active service, telling Powell and Pressburger, "We advise you to not make it, and you can't have Laurence Olivier because he's in the Fleet Air Arm, and we're not going to release him to play your Colonel Blimp." Son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch, they got him.
So RJ, but, I'm picking up this disturbing trend of like facts and information and factoids from you, which is unusual, particularly if one did not care for this film.
Well, Jarrett, I'm a wealth of information. Some people have said that I am maybe the smartest guy they know. I was talking with my buddy Marty. Martin Scorsese. I call him Marty. I talk to him at home. I call him on weekends.
Smarty Marty.
No, actually, all it was, Jarrett, was this morning when I woke up, I had about an hour or two before I had to do anything, and I was really tired.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. That's the line between having a middling, run-of-the-mill podcast and one with all that information that people are so starved for.
Well, okay, so here's what it actually was, though. So I had like an hour this morning while I was having my coffee, waking up. I was like, I'll throw something on. I was like, I don't want to put on a whole movie because I only really have like an hour. And so I searched on the Criterion channel because I knew that there was this documentary. I was like, maybe they'll have it. But they didn't. They just had they
might
this
not
other
have the rights for it.
Yeah, so I was like, I think because the one I watched was 28 minutes or something. I was like, I think that's as long as the alleged documentary even is, because I think that's only half an hour. So I was like, whatever, I'll throw that son of a bitch on while I'm like doing my morning stuff. However, that's not always the case, because for the movies that are on the Criterion channel, I always check, and there's not always other things. I did watch the Solaris supplementary stuff, but I never talked about it because I forgot.
And that episode was 100 hours long.
Yeah, exactly. So we didn't need it anyways. But yeah, I got a lot of insight from Thelma.
Nice.
Maybe.
So yeah, like I alluded to, up until the point, basically right before the First World War stuff, I was starting to be won over by it, but there was something between taking that break and coming back to it where I was like, oh, I know where this is going. Kind of like I know where I am going.
Don't. No, that's fine. Keep going.
Yeah, but yeah, I just kind of I wasn't on board with the rest of the story.
Really? Tell me more.
That's about it.
You are not okay. Is that the end of your diatribe?
Sure.
So I was more or less along the same lines of you, where I knew how long it was, but I portioned it out appropriately, where I knew I had 3 hours, so I could just watch it, and I went in one go. When I was watching it, I was like, it's pretty good. I was like, I definitely like it better than that piece of shit I Know Where I'm Going, and I think it's better than Peeping Tom also, but it doesn't come close to like Black Narcissus or The Red Shoes, anything like that. So when I was watching it, I think I had more or less a similar opinion to you, where I was like, it's fine. There was a lot of like fluff in there, I think, especially for a 2 hour and 44-minute long movie. I was like, it's fluff. But yeah, you're kind of right, where I watched that thing today and I was like, oh, that's neat. That's cool. It gave me a better appreciation for it a little bit, I guess. Not like, I don't think it pushed it from like, yeah, I think that's good to, yeah, that movie's amazing. I was kind of just like, this thing's okay to, oh yeah, that's neat. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I mean. It's just I have more information to tell you. Like, Jarrett, did you know that I can't remember. I can't remember if it was Powell or Pressburger, but one of them was in love with Deborah Kerr, and this movie was about his love affair with her.
Oh wow!
And how he couldn't get over her.
Oh, wow.
And how he saw her in all of the women that he was with. You didn't do the oh wow again.
I went.
Oh, so yeah, I think that's the last insight that I have from Thelma was he was talking about like how it's this movie is, whichever one it was, I can't remember, how it's basically just about them being in love with Deborah Kerr. And then actually I saw that at the time of this interview, was a while ago, that Thelma lady had the book Hugo Cabret on her desk, and it's like, hey, maybe that's where that movie Hugo came from. Who's to say? Jarrett? Who's to say? No, I thought this movie was pretty good. I don't think it didn't blow or rip my dick off or anything like that. But there were a lot of things that I liked about it. I think a lot of the sets are real pretty, especially when it's like, is it like matted, painted backgrounds? Is that what it is?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Sure. I liked those. I thought those were real nice.
Some of those, but there's also just like regular old like backgrounds, matted canvas backgrounds.
Yeah, there wasn't
like literally.
There wasn't like a ton of those, but there's some. So I thought those were cool. I thought the Technicolor looks real nice. Mm-hmm. I thought our boy, whatever his name is, Larry, what's his name? Like Larry Oversaul.
What, the lead?
Something? Yeah, Colonel Blimp.
Roger Livesey?
Yeah, Roger
Livesey. Yeah.
Livesey from I Know Where I'm Going fame.
Yeah.
I thought he was really good, and
he's got a very pretty great voice.
Apparently, that held him back in a lot of acting roles. People didn't like his gruff voice, is what Thelma told me.
Well, that's the British for you.
That's the British for you. So I thought he was great, and I thought the makeup in this movie was pretty good.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I did have a note about like,
good.
Hey, like, look, we could do old age makeup in 1943. Mm-hmm. What's your excuse, 2019?
Yeah, I know. It's fucking unbelievable. So apparently, Robert De Niro is a big fan of this makeup, and he was like, how did he get so fat when he was an older man? And Thelma was like, it's just called acting, baby. It's just acting. Look it up, sugar.
He slapped him in the fucking face.
Mm-hmm. So I actually thought his makeup was awesome. Like the Theo guy, you can tell like
Yeah.
where the wig is, but old Colonel Blimp himself, his makeup is pretty fucking immaculate. So that's really good. I didn't pick this up when I was watching it. Like there's the obvious stuff that you pick up from like the xenophobia and like the German stuff. But Thelma, my good personal friend, was telling me that it's Pressburger's life because he kind of lived a very similar thing where he was kind of ousted from his country of origin and was kind of like moved around. Because he was Hungarian, but then he went to a couple other countries, and it was around the same time where there were wars going on, and he wasn't really accepted in a lot of places, and he felt like an alien. So that character is Pressburger.
Outsider.
Yeah, an outsider, one of those guys. So that's him, which is pretty cool. Thelma said that there's no villain in this movie, and she said that Powell and Pressburger movies don't have villains, which I find is not entirely true. Because
What? Yeah.
like Peeping Tom, that guy's a villain. But I guess that's just Michael Powell.
But he's a sympathetic.
Well, I know where I'm going. What's her name? The star of that, she sucks.
Wendy Hiller?
Well, no, she was good. That movie sucks though.
Yeah.
That movie is the bad guy in that one.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I got some good ones here, RJ. I got some praise for this film. Not who hates, but who loves. So Roger Ebert's words, talking about the performances by the lead actors as well for transforming Ebert, a blustering, pig-headed caricature into one of the most loved of all movie characters.
I don't think so. I think like Pink Panther maybe is one of the most beloved characters ever, but I'd never heard of Colonel Blimp before this.
How about Clouseau there?
Hey, you know Pink Panther, Leslie Nielsen?
Yeah, okay.
See?
You don't beloved. David Mamet has written the King of the Mamet, damn it. My idea of perfection is a Roger Livesey, my favorite actor in the life and death of Colonel Blimp, my favorite film, about to fight Anton Walbrook, my other favorite actor.
Who? Mark Wahlberg?
Anton Walbrook.
Who?
Theo.
Theo from what?
Stephen Fry saw the films addressing what it means to be English and praised it for the bravery of taking a longer view of history in 1943.
Who? Who are these people, these reviews that you're reading?
Stephen Fry?
Oh, I know Stephen Fry. He's that guy from that hit movie V for Vendetta.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I know him.
Mm-hmm.
I know him, Jarrett. I know him.
Movies.
Hey, did you know David Mamet wrote Spartan?
I'm aware.
It's a good show.
And a future Criterion movie, House of Games.
Not Glengarry Glen Ross?
Not in the collection.
What about Wag the Dog?
He didn't actually direct that. He wrote it.
Nobody wrote it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at movies he wrote. What about The Edge with Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins? That's a good show.
That movie's awesome.
Oh, the banner has Alec Baldwin hitting a bear with a stick. That's depressing.
Sometimes you gotta beat the bear, RJ.
Sometimes you beat the bear. Sometimes the bear beats you.
I think that's how it goes.
Am I right, Jarrett?
That's right.
So, tell me more about your love of British imperialism. What scene I did not like in Colonel Blimp?
What?
All the safari stuff.
Oh, I thought that was okay. That was like one of my primary notes. Is like that's my one takeaway from this movie. That like it's a very inventive thing, but at the same time it's grotesque. Is the how they did the montage of like, well, what does this guy go and do during his downtime when his like love life's in the shitter and people die? He's like, well, I'm going to go kill me some animals on safari. And so you get this montage of his like wall accumulating with the heads of animals.
Beasts.
But beasts, yeah. But like it's all punctuated with like these cuts with the like gunfire. And it's just blam, and they appear on the wall. It's really cool. Like it's very effective because it's almost like the sound effect blasts it onto the wall. But then you're like, oh, that's an elephant head. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
But hey, it's a different era when trophy hunting was cool. And
Trophy hunting was never cool.
Taxidermy was cool.
Yeah,
it's a pretty neat scene, but yeah, I was also like, ugh. That's one thing. I'm like, yeah, hunting for sport is like it's quite the throwback. It's a Hemingway sort of thing, and this guy's like that kind of Hemingway sort of lead, but with a bit more of a softer side.
A Duncan side,
he's cushy.
Yeah, a little cushy, especially when he's older.
We get some mentions of Dunkirk.
You do get some Dunkirk. You get some Dunkirk. You get some other Kirks. Captain Kirk, I think he's in this for a little bit. I think you would like this movie more if it was 40 minutes shorter.
Just me in specific, or just like the royal?
No, just you specifically.
I don't know. It's also the subject matter, how it's handled. It's got that lightness of a Powell and Pressburger film.
Oh, actually, so that's another thing that I wasn't super hot on, where I think the intro and the ending are too playful. And like, it's not that the movie itself doesn't have like humor or like playful things throughout, but the intro and the ending specifically feel out of place because they're almost over the top goofy.
Yeah. And
you're kind of like, this seems like a bit much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I wasn't, those definitely were like, this real cornball stuff. It's like, I mean, it's not like it's totally out of place, but I just like, yeah, this isn't for me. This type of material is not how I like see the world or watch movies. That's totally, again, that's my preference, I guess, for stuff. But
it is your preference. That's your right, man.
That's my right. You know, we all can't be the Workmeister harmonies.
Oh, what's that movie about again? A whale?
Walking. It's a lot of walking and straw shack and naked old men in hospitals. Anyways, RJ, who hates Colonel Blimp?
People?
Yes, people. What do we got here? This is a popular. I've seen this name before, and I think they're just a letterbox troll, but that's okay. Sha Wojing with half a star.
I follow.
Yeah, they. I've seen them. Like, they basically just give things half stars.
Yeah, that's they have
long and look, and they write long and boring, endless dialogue. I'm not British, so maybe some things were lost on me, but I really wasn't into the film. Has a couple of stirring moments. Overall, the film didn't really do that much for me. Extremely tedious. Good, but not amazing. Sort of worth it. Strap yourself in for a long one.
I'll strap you in for a long one. How's that sound, Jarrett? I meant you specifically, not Sha Wujing. Hey. Don't be dropping those. I find it interesting that they said that this was long and boring, but they gave 5 stars to Qui-Gon, or as we infamously called it, quite long. Yeah, this person's a troll for sure because they have 1,900 ratings and 400 are half stars. Yeah. And they're shitting here like, Ernest Scared Stupid. That's not a half star movie. Get fucking bent, person.
Next up,
wherever you are.
Rima, 1.5 star. Man, I'm going to be in trouble for this rating. I know that this film is a classic Powell Pressburger, but it is slow and dull and cliched. There is said it, and I'm not sorry. Maybe because this was filmed in some of the darkest days of World War II, neither the script nor the acting has any depth or subtext. Disagree on that. Perhaps in such a harrowing time, the British could not afford it. I much prefer any other PP film. Better to watch I Know Where I Am Going.
Oh, no.
Or A Matter of Life and Death.
Come on. Not I Know Where I'm Going. Not that one, Jarrett.
I know where I'm going.
So their favorite movies are things you would expect, like Criterion's, but there's also 5 stars for Fight Club, 5 stars for like Run Lola Run, which is weird. But here's the bio for Rima. Check out my podcast, Foibles, on iTunes. Jared, I think I'm not going to check out their podcast. Sick burn, am I right?
Finally, Tofba.
Tofba.
To Facebook? I don't know. So 1.5 star. Nope, couldn't get into it. Too much of hip hip jolly old chap. Just put me in an irritable mood. Maybe some other time I can forbear it enough to sit through the whole thing.
It's a weird thing to say. I'm looking through their like movies. They actually, so here's a trend. Every one of these people gave Departures, the 2008 film by Yojiro Takita, 5 stars. So I wonder what that movie has. That
a movie I've never seen or heard of.
I have it on my watch list actually, Jarrett. Departures by that name I said.
Yeah.
So they all give that 5 stars. So I don't know what that movie has that this one doesn't. But there's some half-star movies in here, like The Last King of Scotland and Somewhere, which is that Sofia Coppola movie starring Stephen Dorff. That's right. Deacon Frost from the Blade series.
That's like 3 weeks in a row. We can't avoid the Dorff.
Well, I mean, once you bring up Stephen Dorff, there's not really... I mean, just end the podcast.
Yeah.
Brother.
That's it.
Brother. Is it?
That's for the hate. Any other thoughts you want to share?
No, I think Colonel Blimp is fine.
Yeah.
I have no strong opinions for or against it. Like, I think it's a good movie. I'm sure it's some people's favorite movie, and I'm sure it's some people's like bleh movie. But I thought it was fine. I don't know.
I think it's like, yeah, for me at this point. And actually, I was actually talking to a guy at the comic store about Powell and Pressburger, and I think we were all on the same page that Black Narcissus was the top dog.
What about Red Shoes?
He was on the same page. He was like okay with Red Shoes, like I am. Like other people do really like that Red Shoes, but Black Narcissus for me.
What about that Red Shoes?
So it's good, but
well, I think we can say I'm going to firmly put Colonel Blimp in the middle of the Powell and Pressburgers that we've seen. Under Red Shoes and Black Narcissus. But over...
That's definitely... That sounds with me.
Yeah. And I know... what's that one show? Peeping Tom is just Powell, but I'm counting that. We can count that.
It's half an Archer.
Yep. Fair enough. Cool. So you want to get some food or something?
No.
Okay. We'll see you later then, dude.
After the break, RJ and I are rapidly aging.
Ooh.
And we're going to look at our the wasteland of our podcast after some bombing and go, awesome.
Awesome.
I can move on with my life.
Oh, that's a good point.
Go kill some Nazis.